Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Joe Usual, and today I want to talk about my Furious Vengeance Champion build that I completed the game with the very first time I played through. And after several hundred hours now, I want to go ahead and talk about what I might do differently. Some choices you might want to try out depending on your playstyle and what you'd like to achieve. And right now, let's go ahead and let me jump right into the build, and we'll go from level 1. But it ends up being a level 4 levels in Barbarian, 5 levels in Paladin, and 3 levels in Fighter. We have 120, I have 129 hit points. Karlach has 129 hit points. There are some things that we could improve here as far as the strength goes. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But as it stands right now, you're going to start with Paladin as your first class, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go with Oath of Vengeance because it's the hardest one to break. Unless you want to go with a Oathbreaker Paladin, in which case take Oath of Ancients and just kill the first 2 tieflings that you find in the game. Then you can break your oath. That's fine if that's the way you want to play. Oath of Vengeance is what I'm going to do because that's the build we're doing today. As far as abilities go, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to drop my Charisma by 1, and I'm going to raise my Constitution by 1 to give me some more hit points. As far as my strength goes with 17, right quick, I'm going to talk about the ways you can increase your strength without using your ability score improvements with the 3 acts in the game. The first act of the game, when you fight the hag, if you don't kill her, she will give you a choice to raise one of your ability scores by 1 point. If you pick that, you can raise your strength up to 18. Then in the second act at Moonrise Towers, next to the kitchen, there's going to be an alchemy chemist by the name of Araj Aboldra. Araj Aboldra. She is a Lothsworn drow, and if you let Astarion drink her blood, she will give you a potion which will raise your strength by 2. Do that. That'll get your strength up to 20. And then in Act 3, when you get to the end of Shadowheart's storyline, once you defeat all of the people in the temple, in the House of Grief, you go to the Mirror of Sorrows, I think it is. Maybe it's the Mirror of Grief. Anyway, so the mirror, if you pass all of the checks, you can raise your ability score by 2 again. So you're going to be able to raise your strength up by 2 again. So at the end of the middle of Act 2 or Act 3, you should be able to have a strength of 22 permanently. And there are potions that can raise it higher than that temporarily. There's some, I think there's a Storm Giant potion somewhere in here that gets your strength up to like 27 until a long rest. But I'm talking about permanent stat improvement. So those are the 3 things in the game that's going to be able to raise your strength permanently. So you have the highest ability score you're going to be able to get. Now, as you saw a minute ago, my strength was only at 17 at level 12. I didn't do any of those things. That's one of the things I would change. So anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get into the build. So at level 2, we're going to take Paladin again. We're going to, because we want our Divine Smites. Now, we're going to get 2 Divine Smites at this point, which is level 2, which is great because it's going to give us 2d8 extra damage or 3d8 damage on top of our weapon damage if it's an undead that we're fighting. So that's an immense amount of damage, which is really good. We're not going to take defense, which would normally raise our armor class by 1. Instead, we're going to take great weapon fighting, so that when we roll a 1 or a 2 on our damage die, we roll again with a 2-handed melee weapon. We're only going to use a 2-handed melee weapon in this build because we're going to actually pick up the Sword of Justice in Act 1. After you get Karlach, she's going to say she wants to go fight these paladins. These are the paladins of Tyr that have been chasing her. The leader has the Sword of Justice. I used that sword all the way through to the end of the game. Highly recommend it. It gives you once per long rest a Shield of Faith ability, so you can raise your armor class by 2, which is one of the reasons why I did not take defense, but we're going to get defense anyway when we take fighter later on down the road. So, because we're going to take another fighting style. But right now we're taking great weapon fighting. As far as spells go, take all the smites you want to take because, and try them out, see what you like. Every smite does something different. Your Searing Smite does fire damage, sets people on fire, which is cool. Thunderous Smite possibly knocks somebody prone. And then Wrathful Smite might make somebody afraid. When in Act 1, because we're level 2 right now, right? In Act 1, you're dealing with a lot of goblinoids. I mean, and their wisdom aren't super high. So, being able to make them afraid is super easy. So, it's fun to watch those goblins run away from you. for a couple of rounds. At levels 3 and 4, we're going to take Barbarian. Level 3, when you take Barbarian, you're going to get your Rage, which is going to allow you to get resistant to all the physical damage that you're going to take. Your slashing, your bludgeoning, your piercing. So you're going to take half damage with that. Whenever you Rage, you're going to want to take that. You get 2 of those per long rest. And then at level 2 Barbarian, we're going to get Reckless Attack, which is going to give us advantage on attack rolls. Now, enemies do get advantage against you until your next turn, but that's fine because you should be ending your enemies. These are little goblins. You should be ending them with your Divine Smites right and left. Shouldn't be a big deal. And long rests are not a big deal in this game, so you should be taking long rest in between battles anyway. There's enough food in this game. You should be able to do that. I mean, if you want to take a long rest in between 2 to 3 battles at a time, that's okay. But really, your support characters are probably going to need rests in between every battle. So you're probably going to be taking rests between every battle anyway early in the game. So that sort of thing is not going to be an issue. Now, at level 3, we're going to go ahead and take another level in Barbarian. And the reason for that is because we want to take Berserker. And Berserker is going to give you a Frenzied Rage. And when you take Frenzied Rage, you actually are able to do a Frenzied Strike on your bonus action, which now at level 5 gives you 2 attacks per round. You have 1 for your bonus action and 1 for your action. And so now that this is not a Divine Smite attack, but it is an extra attack. So you're going to want to go ahead and take this because that way you can attack twice in a round. And then once we start getting into the fighter side of things, we're going to be able to do that 4 to 6 times in a round when we get higher up in levels. So in the end, we're going to be able to attack 6 times in one round. And the amount of damage we're going to be able to do is going to be around 250 if we crit all the way across the board. So at level 5, we do Berserker 3. Now, when you're making these builds, you have to think about Acts 1, Acts 2, and Acts 3. And so at level 6, we're getting toward the end of Act 1 if you've done everything there is to do in Act 1. You might be into Act 2 by now, but if you are, you're missing out. You really should be doing everything in Act 1. And that way you're around level 6, and so you have a choice here. You're going to either take a 4th level in Barbarian and get your feat or your ability score improvement, or you can take, which I don't suggest, or you can take a 3rd level in Paladin and get an additional Divine Smite. Now, if you're thinking about this, what you're doing right now is you're attacking twice per round. This will give you a 3rd smite, and so you really shouldn't be, your fights shouldn't be lasting more than 3 rounds. And so this way, if you have a 3rd Divine Smite, you should be able to get a Divine Smite each round, and you have your bonus attack with your Frenzied Rage. So you're going to be doing a Divine Smite, Frenzied Rage, Divine Smite, Frenzied Rage, Divine Smite, Frenzied Rage, and that fight should be over. You shouldn't be going more than 3 rounds in a fight. If you are, maybe you might want to think about doing something different with your support characters. But right now, you're also going to have your Divine Health, which is going to make you, you're going to be able to prevent disease, which you don't have to worry about too awful much. But once you get into Act 2, you might have to deal with that when it comes to some of the undead might be throwing disease at you. So you might want to be thinking about that. So definitely you want to get a 3rd level in Paladin at level 6. Now, once again, this is at level 7. This is going to be something that you're going to want to think about. Are you going to want to take a 4th level in Paladin, or are you going to want to take a 4th level in Barbarian and take your feat? I would say wait. I know you're like, wait, I want my feat. Well, then in that case, take your feat. It's fine. And remember, you can always go to Withers, and you can always respec at any point in time for 100 gold. So it's not that big a deal. At this point, you should be living large as far as money goes. 100 gold should not be a problem for you. You're just now getting into the second act, or you're maybe in the middle of the second act, but I don't think so. Levels 7, 8, and 9 are going to be in the second act. So level 7, you should be at the beginning of the second act. So I would say go ahead and start getting into your fighter levels. This is going to give you an additional healing. This is going to give you second wind, but it's also going to give you another fighting style. And fighting style defense is going to give you an additional 1 to your armor class. This is what I would highly suggest. So we're going to go ahead and take that, because what you're going to want to do for one of your final battles, whenever you're fighting with in the Night Song battle is you're going to want your action surge. So you're going to want a second level in fighter at level 8, so you can go ahead and now you're going to be able to make 4 attacks in one round. Okay? So you're going to have 4 attacks in one round. You're going to have 6 smites you're going to have 3 smites available to you. So you're in your first round, you probably use up almost all of your smites, if not all of your smites, but you're going to be able to take out a ton of enemies all at once. At level 9, we're at the end of Act 2, and so we're going to go ahead and take another level in Paladin, which is going to give you an additional lay on hands charge. You're going to want to do that because you're going to need that extra healing. Trust me, in this final battle that you're going to want to do, because you're going to need that extra healing. Just trust me, you're going to need it. So at level 9, we're going to take another level in Paladin. We're also, in this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take Great Weapon Master, which is going to allow us to make a -5 penalty on attack rolls, but it's also going to give us an extra 10 damage to our attack rolls. So we're doing an additional 10 damage. If we're doing 2 attacks in a round, that's an additional 20 points of damage that we're doing per round to our enemies. Is super, super helpful. Just makes it to where you can whittle down the enemies even faster than you could before. At level 10, we're going to keep on that Paladin train because we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our extra attack, and that's going to allow us to have 6 attacks in one round, or 4, or that's actually going to give us 3 attacks in a single round. That's going to give us a little extra oomph in our second round of combat, so we're not just we're not feeling like we're whiffing it so hard. We're going to have an additional divine smite in the second round that we're going to be able to carry us through and be able to just knock enemies out of the park. This also gives you access to level 2 spells, but you know what? I don't ever hardly use these spells. So I mean, you take a look at them, see if there's anything you like, add them to your repertoire. And if you want to put them in your toolbox, by all means, go ahead and do that. I don't ever use them for the most part because I've got everything I need at this point. And especially if you're using Illithid powers, Illithid powers are just going to bolster the abilities that you've got already, and you're going to be almost unstoppable at this point. At level 11, we're going to take another level in Barbarian, and we're going to take a feat. At this point, we're going to do one of 2 things. We're either going to take Tough, or we're going to take Mobile. It's really up to you. But really Mobile, if you're taking the Illithid powers, you already have 60 feet in flight, so it doesn't really matter. You could do other things. You could do Lucky. Lucky wouldn't be bad. Obviously, if you want to take Sentinel or Polearm Master, if you're using a glaive or if you're using a halberd, you could do that. However, I'm going to take Tough just because I want those extra hit points for those final battles, because extra tankiness is always where it's at for me. Now, at level 12, there's one of 3 things you can do. If you take level 6 in Paladin, that's all well and good. The Aura of Protection will give you some bonuses on saving throws. I don't really care about that. If you took an extra level in Barbarian, you would get it says extra attack or extra movement. Extra movement is not bad. You would get an extra 10 feet of movement, but really it's not that big a deal. I at this point, like I said, if you're using the Illithid powers, you've got 60 feet of movement through flight. So it's not, it's just not that big a deal. 60 feet is the most you're going to get anyway, unless maybe you're a monk. But we're not talking about monks here. We're talking about my Paladin build. You can only have 1 extra attack in the game, so you can't. This is not going to do you any good. So I would highly suggest you take a level 3 in Fighter, which is going to give you your subclass, which I would take Champion, which is going because that is the build right now. And so the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So instead of a 20, it's going to be a 19. So in 19 and 20, we're going to be critting, and we're going to be critting right and left at this point, because our attack is so high that we're just we're going to be critting right and left. So Champion's where it's at. And that's what pulls together the Furious Vengeance Champion build. And yeah, that's going to be my 12 levels, guys. Okay, so like I said, I was using the Sword of Justice throughout the entire game. That's 6 to 16 damage, plus the 10 for Great Weapon Master, which is 26. Plus, if let me just show you here. So with my Divine Smite, that's going to be 42 damage per hit if I crit each hit. So and then plus against a Fiend or Undead, it's an extra 8 damage. So that'll be 50. So I do that twice in a round. That's 100. And then I have a reckless attack, which is going to be another 26. So that's 26 damage if I crit that. So that's going to be 200, and I do that with an action surge. That's going to be 252 points of damage if I were to crit all 6 of those hits. Now, even if I don't, I'm going to crit at least 3 to 4 of those with this build. So I'm talking about we're doing at least 200 points of damage in the first round for me, and Karlach has the same build. So between the two of us, we're wiping enemies off the board right and left. Also, I have 2 level 2 spell slots and 4 level 1 spell slots for divine smites. So that's 6 smites within 1 fight each of us. So it's 12 smites between the two of us. So we are doing an extreme amount of damage in every single fight. So yeah, I would change a couple of things that I did. I would raise my strength up the three different ways that you can in the game in Acts 1, 2, and 3. But beyond that, I'd keep this build. This is a good build. So tell me what you think in the comment section down below, guys. Hopefully I helped you out. And if I did, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that right now. As I always say, I am my usual me, be your usual you, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.